Running it back, Luke Fickell will be the Wisconsin Badgers coach in 2026.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for being here. I am your host, Ryan Herrings. Thank you for being an everydayer and being part of this community. Let's get into it. A bit of a breaking, quick episode just to get some initial thoughts in, get your comments in. If you're in the chat, let us know. Chris McIntosh, Wisconsin Badgers Athletic Director, released a statement today confirming what I think a lot of people thought was already happening. Luke Fickell will be the Wisconsin Badgers football head coach in 2026. I think I want to just start with a couple of the statements here. This is from, and this was according to a report by ESPN and Varsity Connect with Jesse Temple. Always want to give sources. He said, Chancellor Mnuchin and I are aligned on significantly elevating investment in our program to compete at the highest level, McIntosh said. We are willing to make an investment in infrastructure and staff, as important as our ability to recruit and retain talent. And more there to, if you're subscribed to Varsity Connect, go check out what Jesse Temple's doing. But the big and short of it is Luke Fickell is the coach next year. Luke Fickell at Wisconsin so far, 15-19 overall. Obviously 2-6 this year, winless in the Big Ten. This is something I've thought, and if you've been listening to the show, this really shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. I thought this is where this was going. I have continued to say, if there are positives you can find here if you want to. Again, I completely understand if people were out and they want change and they're frustrated. I'm frustrated. I've been a lifelong Badger fan that's trying to turn my 11-year-old son into a Badger fan. Winning would help on that front. I think the biggest positive you take out of this is there is investment coming. There is money coming into the program. And I think that investment is going to be there regardless of whoever the coach is. But if you're somebody that was just out and you're somebody that wanted this program to move on, this is probably a frustrating day, and I get that. We got people jumping in the chat already. Let's get a couple of these comments in here. Uncultured Barbarian, great old friend of the show, talking about this is just a money thing. Kurt says he may be coming back, but when the booster money dries up and the stadium is empty, McIntosh will be looking for his job as well. Jay Daly says, let's go. Mitch says, zigging when everyone else is zagging. Obviously, a lot of coaching movement this offseason. Zach Bartz, man, good friend of the show, says, now I hope they lose every game by 30+. See, I love Zach. I love Zach. Zach's great people. I just am never going to be there. I still think they can be competitive against Washington. I think they can pull some stuff out. Let me give you a couple reasons. I'm going to give you one thing about this that really frustrates me too. Like something about this that really rubs me the wrong way. And maybe it's just a me thing. But let me give you a couple reasons why. Maybe if you're looking for reasons why this makes sense, why it could work, let me give you a couple. The first is, again, I think the money investment is real. Judging from what Chris McIntosh has said, they're going to be putting more money into the program. That's needed regardless of who the coach is. Whether you are moving on or not, that money investment is absolutely needed. They're going to be putting that into the program. That's a big deal. Again, regardless of who's at the helm of the cruise ship, you got to put the right engines in the ship, and you got to have the right money and the right investment to do that. So I think that's a big deal. I think there is an element of if you want to bank on the young talent on this team, the 24 and the 25 classes, players that have started to already show some things in Wisconsin. If you want to bank on that talent and some of the pieces in this 26 recruiting class, keeping this staff together keeps those players intact. And it's really been one of the things we talked about a lot with this coaching staff is its ability to recruit, its ability to develop talent. That's a big part of this, right? Maybe you keep that roster together. If you keep this coaching staff together, there's a chance that if you blow it all up, you're starting all over 2026. Maybe it becomes a longer rebuild. Why not see if Luke Fickell for sure is the guy or not, right? For sure can or can't do it with a little bit more money. And if he does, then it's an easier path to rebuilding with him because he's already got his pieces here, if that makes sense. But I also get it. I also get the frustration. I get fans being ticked off. I get this team looking as bad as it is and looking around the landscape of college football and seeing all these other programs making moves. And it feels like Wisconsin is getting left behind. It feels like if you're looking at it from that narrative, Wisconsin isn't as serious as a Florida or a Florida State or, certainly Penn State, right? Some of these schools that have moved on, LSU, from high-priced buyouts. That doesn't mean they're going to be right either. We'll have to see. Let's get some more comments in here. Again, I'm not trying to sell anybody on this, by the way. I'm not. I've just also kind of known this has been coming for a while. So I've kind of looked at ways this could work going forward because this doesn't surprise me. I think this is where this has been trending for a long time here. Okay, let's get some more comments. Griffin says, we don't care about culture anymore. We don't care about the state anymore. Most importantly, we don't care about our alumni or fans at all. Running with Jason, so we win 6 or 7 games next season. What does that really mean long term? Live from Lavender Town says, this is what you said a few weeks back. Fickell will win a few more games next year, so they'll get to point to it as progress, even if they aren't much better as a team. Mediocrity inbound. That is my biggest worry, and Brian Shetty hits on it. Yippee, we can't even get to mediocre next year then. I mean, I think we can get to 6, 7, 8 wins next year. My biggest fear as a Badger fan is getting mediocre. Because if you get in mediocre territory, you never pull yourself out. It's almost better to completely bottom out, which then it forces change. Mediocre is a scary thing for me. Let me tell you, I want your comments and just thoughts, just your raw thoughts on this. Tell me if anybody in the chat feels like this is a good idea, bad idea. If someone's in the middle, there's a lot of people frustrated. Let me tell you the one part about this really frustrated me, just off the surface. The one part that really frustrated me, and I'm not trying to be, I'll just say it. And maybe if I wait on a day, or if I think about it for a day or an hour, or maybe I feel differently. Chris McIntosh comes out and does a statement about this, about his announcement through Varsity Connect, Badger Connect, which is, a subscription-based service. Again, I think if you're going to make an announcement like this, go have a press conference and take real questions. Take real questions. I think you owe it to the media and the fans to answer from a broad group of people. I think it's kind of, and this is nothing against Jesse Temple or anything like that. He does incredible work. Jesse Temple's awesome. But I think it's if you're going to come out and make this type of announcement and you're going to try to sell this to your fans, then go up there with a little, again, my opinion, a little more accountability and face reporters from a lot of different places and answer questions and really talk about it and really try to be accountable to the fans. I think, to me, the messaging and the narrative just continues to miss with this program. And I've talked about it a couple times. I don't think kind of sitting behind a paywall and answering questions to someone who, to a place that probably just has a little bit more vested interest in Wisconsin working is the best way to do this. I think fans, I've said it from the jump, just want accountability. They just want honesty. They want someone to go up there and answer questions for a while, honestly, and address some of the fans' real frustration. I think that could have been handled better. I think this probably should have been a press conference. And if you're going to continue to release messages and make announcements and have a press conference, that's what you should do as the athletic director, right? As the figurehead of this department, you should go up there and be able to answer questions from people and sit down for 30 minutes and try to, even if you're not trying to sell anybody, at least hear those concerns, questions, and answer them in a broader format. I don't love how this was released. Eagle says it's official. We are a basketball school in men's sports. I listen. Ben says, is money even the issue? Our coaches cannot develop players. Again, this is kind of exactly what I thought the response would be. I do think this team can be better next year. I do think if you have healthy quarterback, you have more NIL money. I do think that makes a difference. Again, I'm also a supremely positive, optimistic guy. That's kind of who I am. I was like 5 seasons into Game of Thrones thinking all the Starks would survive outside of Ned and the older one. I was like, oh, they'll all be fine. So I'm an optimistic guy by nature. That's who I am. And I can see a path for this working. I can see a path for that 24 and 25 talent being successful. You put more money into the program. That's a big part of it. I could also see it not working, and I can see why people want to move on. All right, we're going to take a second here for our friends of the show. We're going to come back, talk to all of you. Throw your comments in here. Any other questions, thoughts you have? What are your thoughts on the last 4 games of the season? Do you like the timing of this? Will you have waited until after the season to say this? Well, what happens in the next 4 games if every game is like the Iowa game? Do you regret the timing of this move? Give me in your thoughts. The rest of the show will all be your comments, your thoughts. Try to throw something in there besides just you hate this, because I get it. I get the frustration, but let me know if you think there's a path to success here, if you think this is smart, if you think the investment matters, anything like that. All of your comments next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show over at SupplyHouse. SupplyHouse is our incredible partners. If you need any type of project done, if you need any type of building material, focusing on a new repair, SupplyHouse gets your crew moving forward. Order today and see the parts on your doorstep tomorrow. So that's incredibly handy. Obviously, you don't want to waste time. Time is money. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Real-time inventory, honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, SupplyHouse has you covered. Next day delivery, game-changing service, Trade Master perks. Join the free Trade Master program today. Score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. At supplyhouse.com, real people, real service. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is our incredible partner, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, which is back. It's cooking. If you want to get in on that action, live in-game parlays, futures, teasers, any type of betting action, go over to FanDuel right now. New customers, if you bet $5 and win, you get $300 in bonus bets guaranteed. And, the live in-game betting actually makes it really nice, because some of us are fans of teams that aren't very good. Me. And sometimes it's nice to stay in the game, in the action with that live in-game betting. So head over to FanDuel.com, open up the app, visit FanDuel.com to get started today. All right, let's get in this. Any comments or thoughts from any of you guys? Eagle says, I'm positive as well usually, but there's nothing to hang our hat on besides blind hope. I hear that. I really hear that. I would hang your hat a little bit on the young talent. You see guys like Posa and Catalano. I think Kevin Haywood can be a really good player next year. I think getting to Tuca showed maybe what he can do. Ultimately, none of it matters if you don't figure out quarterback, and that's a spot this staff has not done a good enough. They failed. They failed at quarterback, right? I was going to say he has not done a good enough job, but that's not even appropriate. And I think if you talk to them, they would probably say that too. Quarterback injuries have been horrible, but you haven't been able to develop a backup. Metoyer, Evers, Locke, all these guys have come in. You got to fix quarterback. So what does that mean in the offseason? I think let's be real for a second. Let's be real. Now you've put it out there that there is going to be a financial investment into the program. Go show it in the offseason. Go get a quarterback. That isn't Billy Edwards. I'm not saying you got to get a Fernando Mendoza, but if you're going to put money into this program, you're going to talk about that. You're going to say, we're going to put a bigger investment into this program, then you got to go get one of the better quarterbacks this offseason in the portal. Unless Carter Smith, like the last 4 games, just blows up and you're like, okay, we got our guy. Cool. If that doesn't happen, you better take some of that increased financial investment and you better go throw that into the portal, and you better get a quarterback, because that has been the biggest bugaboo really with this entire thing. Quarterback has been significantly worse than really anything Paul Chryst had done and previous regimes have done. You got to fix it. So go take that money and go get a quarterback. And yeah, I think Ben states it. I think he says we need a new quarterback coach. I don't know if you need to replace Kenny Guyton. And I've said several times, you could have Kenny Guyton. I like his energy. I like his recruiting ability. You could have him as a maybe recruiter / passing game coordinator. And I'm not in the staff room, right? I don't know. Maybe he's doing a great job and people are just hurt. But I would love to have a dedicated veteran quarterback developer on staff. I think that makes sense. And you can do it now because you don't have coaching limits, right? You can have as many coaches as you want. So go get a guru and use that guy to kind of maybe help mentor Kenny Guyton, but also help develop the quarterbacks. You got to develop the pieces you get in-house. I 100% agree with that. Mike says, do you think Fickell fires parts of his staff like Tressel? I do think there's going to be staff changes. I would be surprised, honestly, if either of the coordinators went. Tressel, first of all, this defense hasn't been the problem this year. The secondary hasn't been good. Well, I say that, then I remember 37-0 Iowa. I remember Maryland being pretty good against us. I still think the defense has not been the problem, though. The front seven's been pretty good. Offensively, I don't know how you judge Grimes when he hasn't had an offensive line or a quarterback. I do think positional coaches are going to get flipped around. You have to make changes if you're coming back. If this is the product, there has to be something that changes. And I do think there will be 2 or 3 assistants that move on. Just my take. Ryan Arnold says, is BEG saving his red shirt for next year here? I don't think so. I think he is, and I've said this for a while, I think Billy is going to take a medical red shirt. I think he's going to try to utilize his last year. I think from a business standpoint, that makes sense. I can't imagine in any world, in any scenario where it would make sense to come back here. for him or for us. I think that bridge just is what it is. Didn't work out. Like ships in the night. Let's just go our different directions, because if he comes back here, fans are going to be frustrated. You didn't get a lot last year. There'll be questions of why didn't you fight harder, maybe potentially to get on the field, even if that's fair or not fair. That has got to be a clean break. Steven says, Penn State fired a coach that won 10 or more games 6 years in a row because they know they can keep on doing the same thing and think it changes. Because they know they can't keep doing the same thing and think it changes. Wisconsin is just kicking the can down the road. I think Steven, this is a good point. I think Penn State made a mistake, though. To me, just the Penn State one specifically, I think they're going to regret firing James Franklin. The guy was in the playoffs last year. He was a couple plays away from a potential national title. He's really almost never has bad losses outside of this year. I think they're going to regret that one. But I do think your point is correct, right? Your overall point that you could definitely look at this and say other programs are being progressive with this. They're taking action. They're trying to be decisive, whereas potentially Wisconsin is just kicking the can down the road. And what if a year from now we're in the same spot? What if a year from now we're in the same decision? And then you're going to be frustrated that maybe you didn't get a jump on it. I think it's a fair point for sure. Mark D says this is on Mnookin, needs to fire McIntosh and Fickell. I mean, I think if you're Mnookin, and from what I've been told, she cares about athletics. Football matters to her, from what I've been told. I'm certainly not in her circle. I've never talked to her. I think she recognizes that, potentially injuries, money, certain things could be improved. And maybe we want a large enough sample size on a coach before we let him go. Like, Mnookin's not going to be like in the weeds, X's and O's like we are. I think she probably looks at it as we made a big investment here financially to a coach, and let's see if we can make it work before we cut the check for a $25 million buyout. I think she probably just has a bigger picture look on it, and she doesn't live and die with the wins probably like we do. Just my take on it. Zach says they lost by multiple scores at home to Maryland, got blanked by Iowa. We're still pointing to finding basic fundamentals. To me, that shows that he isn't it. Completely fair point. Like the Iowa and Maryland games were horrific. And yeah, there's no excusing that. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. Again, I appreciate everybody. We'll do a longer show on this. I just wanted to give everyone a quick second to talk about it, to think about it, to vent about it if you want to. I'm always here to take the venting. The last thing I would say is this is a community that we all want the same thing. We all want the Badgers to be better. We all want successful football. So don't turn on each other ever. Be frustrated, but be frustrated without being without personally attacking anybody. Like, keep the community strong, which is what it is. Really do appreciate everybody. We're definitely going to come back with more on this. I also have a really good guest coming up that guys are going to see next week, which I'm really excited about. Eagle says still a Badger fan for life, but yikes, this is rough. I agree. Baron Von Trout on Wisconsin, regardless who is the coach. I agree. Always on Wisconsin. Be good people, be a good part of the community. But if you're frustrated about it, if you don't like it, if you don't buy it, I 100% understand the perspective there. I absolutely do. I think for a while I've known this is probably going to happen. So I've kind of found the roads forward where this could make sense and this could work. And I do think those are there. I think if you want to look for them, it's the maturation of the young talent. It's the staff's ability to find that young talent. They got to get a quarterback healthy. But the easier schedule, healthy quarterbacks, have more money. You can figure out why this might make sense and why it could work. In my opinion, that's only my opinion. Doesn't make it the right one. Again, appreciate every single one of you on Wisconsin. Thank you so much. And we will definitely talk more.